Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, while I was teaching the other day, I came across someone who told me they were learning two languages at once. And it is possible to learn two languages at once, but usually it takes a particular kind of person. Maybe a student who has 8 hours a day to study, or someone who's studying, let's say, linguistics, or has a particular reason, maybe someone who's involved in the field of language learning, or even teaching. This particular person was a student, so I could kind of understand that they had a lot of time. But even for students, learning two languages at the same time seemed to me to be a little bit of an overkill. Overkill means when you perhaps try to do something again and again when it's not really necessary. Overkill is a way in English to express that something is being repeated again and again when it doesn't really need to be. So, for example, where one language is quite enough, two languages are being learned, that might be a bit of an overkill, especially if there's no real reason for doing it. Anyway, learning two languages at the same time, according to an article I found in the web magazine Popular Science, is actually very popular. And its headline says, "You should learn two languages at once." And it puts forward the idea that we're actually designed for that. Our brains are designed to learn language. Now, I have to say, I do agree with that up to a point. I would say that we probably are designed for language learning, but most of us have forgotten that, and some of us don't believe that. So if you are planning to learn two languages at once, there is a lot of very positive information telling you that you can do it. This article says more than 1 billion people around the world are trilingual. So that means you have your own language and then you have two more. But it doesn't define what trilingual is. I mean, if you know how to ask where the train station is in French, does that make you bilingual? So you first of all, I think, have to look at how far you want to go with these languages. Remember, being bilingual or trilingual is defined by you. Okay, you're the one that says, yep, I am bilingual. And you can do that in the fast moment once you learn a few sentences, or you can do it after you take a complex exam. So these people who say they're bilingual, trilingual, and polyglots, I'm always a little bit suspicious until I hear them in some complex conversation, because for me, that's what defines being bilingual or trilingual. Anyway, this article goes on to say that in a study carried out in China, Chinese people who were learning Russian and English at the same time had more success than people who were simply learning English. Now, it doesn't tell us the age of these people, but we do know, of course, that Chinese people are much more studious than Western people, generally speaking, because they have more academic minds than we have. I'm not sure how true that is. It may be a stereotype, but that's my personal opinion. It also says here that if you're already bilingual, then it's much easier. You've already done something to prove that it's possible. This article doesn't tell us, though, how to do it. It doesn't tell us what to study, how to study, how to organize our time. It just says that we should plan our objectives, what we want to get from these languages. I mean, if you just want to say, hi, how are you? How's your mother? In two languages, it's relatively easy and maybe build upon that conversation. But for many people, that simply isn't enough. And that isn't a sign of being bilingual. That's a sign of perhaps just wanting friends, maybe. I don't know. It's something which you have to consider. According to this article, if you allot your time, that just means if you partition your time and energy efficiently, you'll get a good idea of what a study plan will look like. And it's very important to understand how difficult those languages might be. So if you already speak English, for example, it would seem right that you would choose a language like German or French to learn because the grammar is kind of similar to us. Whereas if you choose a language that's completely different, it might be double the whack. This article also goes on to say that it's especially important to get structured language practice, which means actually having someone that helps you with it. And then, of course, it talks about cultural immersion. Now, I have to say there's a few things that I don't agree with. Okay, so first of all, I honestly believe that if you believe you can do something, then it will be done. No matter how many people tell you that you can't do it, if you really believe you can, then it will be done. Some of the greatest inventors in the world were told initially that either they were liars or the thing that they were trying to do couldn't be done. You know, like flying an aircraft. Think of Galileo and his discovery of the planets. There's millions of examples, both personal and professional, when people just say, no, no, you can't do that. And I'm telling you, you can't. That kind of thing seems very, very strange, doesn't it? But it is proof that you can do it. So I never believe these things which say, oh, you know, as you get older, your brain shrinks and it's not possible. I think that's nonsense because as you get older, actually you understand and you believe more in yourself than when you're younger, and you can make more informed decisions about what you want to do. I was in the Apple store yesterday, and when I was there was a woman who was 90 buying an iPad, and I could see that the 18-year-old assistant was a little bit surprised, and he was trying to get a conversation out of her about what she's going to do with this thing. And she told him, I'm 90 years old. It's a great thing. The iPad has really changed my life. I love it. And he said, yeah, but do you use all the things on here? I mean, are you able to, for example, use some of the more developed apps? And she said, I'm 90 years old. I've spent my life writing things. What do you think? And he was a bit surprised by the answer. But anyway, of course, he went on to sell her the iPad, and the conversation quickly died. And it's very interesting how we view other people and how other people perceive us based on something they either know about us or something they can see about us. Yeah, I was in a restaurant yesterday and I was walking down the steps, and the manager came rushing after me and said, oh, those steps, are they okay for you? And I said, yeah. Well, why? And he said, oh no, just checking, you know. And I thought he thinks I'm really old. And I was a bit offended, but anyway, I very quickly got over it. But it's very interesting how people view us, based on characteristics or maybe something that they pick up. And usually, those things they pick up are wrong. Now, the interesting thing about this article is that at the very end of it, it has a comment section. And the comment section is full of people commenting why they can't learn two languages at once. One of them says, "Oh, I'm taking medication for a particular disease, so I can't possibly learn two languages at once." No, no. Another one says, "Oh, I'm a logical person, so I can't learn two things which are illogical at the same time." The next one, someone else with a different disease. And then the last one, the person says, "Oh, I'm a perfectionist. I can't possibly learn two things at once." So you see, already the barrier, the wall is put up, okay? And it's put up when we face something new. I mean, I do it as well. If you take me to a swimming pool and say swim, I would say, "Oh, no, no, I can't. I don't know how to." So my mind is closed. Rather than saying, "Okay, let me get in the water and try," I'm saying, "No, can't do it." And this is the barriers, well, these are the barriers we face when we try to learn. When we try to learn one language, there's often the barrier comes up and says, "No." Sometimes we don't even know why the barrier comes up. Maybe it's a bad experience in the past, or maybe we just really don't have the time or motivation to do it. But whatever the reason, it's down to us. So let's get back to discussing this two language thing. So to conclude, firstly, I would say, oh, it's possible. I've met people who do it, so it's completely possible. It's possible at any age. That's the first thing. The second thing is not to doubt people because of their age or ability based on your perception, for example. Another thing to remember that a lot of these so-called experts that claim we can't do things are themselves not misinformed. I mean, they're trying to help us, but they're not giving us information in the best possible way. Now, I'm not a healthcare professional, okay, so I'm not able to give you health advice, but there's always other ways or other ways of managing disease, for example, when you've been diagnosed with something. So if that's possible, it means anything's possible. Two languages too. But perhaps one of the difficulties we do all face is managing our time. We really do have to be realistic in what we're able to do every day. If you really do want to learn two languages at the same time, you don't need to rush away to a mountain and meditate about it for a couple of months. You simply need to start slow. We're all on the internet. We all have access to media from every country on the planet, both radio and television. That's a very good place to start. Just begin watching movies. If they're subtitled with your native language, great. And if they're not, just enjoy them. Listen to some of the sounds. For example, if you want to learn Dutch, has a lot of and yeah. If you want to learn Arabic, it's kind of the same with those kind of phonetics. So that's a good place to start. At least it gives you an introduction. And then slowly have a look at the grammar of both these languages. You could alternate the days. One day, one language, the next day, the next language, if you can't do two at the same time, or one in the morning, one in the evening. But start simply. just with a few sounds, and slowly build up to meeting someone like a language exchange partner who's just going to spend an hour with you, uh, just trying to go over some of the basics. If you're really, really afraid and want to start off with something really simple, I highly recommend Duolingo. Okay, it's got introductions to loads of languages on the planet. Okay, strangely, it's not got all the languages yet, but it's building up to it. So that would be a really good place to start, Duolingo in 2 languages, because it's like a game. You can do it daily. So it's always possible. Nothing is off the table, as we say in English. And that simply means everything is being looked at. So keep your mind open, look at all possible ways. And whenever someone tells you no, or if your mind comes up and tells you no, see that as something that you're going to overcome. And that is the best way to approach learning 2 languages at the same time. But a very good place to begin if you are going to do that, and even to begin if you're learning 1 language, is simply looking at your time, because that, I think, is going to be the defining factor as to how successful you are. All right, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk again soon. See you. Bye.